chapter in the story of in the tree of life. The tree of life has many branches, but I sit in that base where life separates from bacteria to everything that's not bacteria, archaea and plants and animals and every type of other life. How did I come into being? I do not know for sure. But somewhere I evolved. What's interesting? When the earth was formed, it was a very dry place. But then a meteor crashed into it, broke a part of it, and that became the moon. And then there was some water. Earth cooled down. And when there was water, maybe there were some what we could call hydrothermal vents, places where there are under the ocean high temperature and there is water flowing over it. This creates what we could call an energy gradient. There is always something of a high energy above me and something that has no energy below. And this creates a difference that brings in a new chemistry. And from that chemistry formed some chains of compounds. And from that came the first, maybe we don't know, the first strain of RNA possibly, that could have been the first self-replicating organism, which we could call life. Maybe the records are scarce, maybe we don't know all about me, but this much we know, that there was one common ancestor for all of life that is there today. And that was the last universal common ancestor. And from there was a branch. There was bacteria, which were like simple cells. These were like living beings which were very simple. They were not like anything like me. They were like very simple. They just had a nucleus, some little bit of RNA or some encoding which contains what they want to do. You just think of it like how you have a cell phone and a SIM card. So the SIM card contains some information for the cell phone to work. So RNA is something like that. It's like a microchip which has the code and that helps to replicate. So this is how the cells were. Before the eukaryote came, I think life was pretty simple. There was just a nucleus with this RNA and there was some cytoplasm, some material floating around in which an organism could move and possibly do something. That's the very simple life of a bacteria, things like that. But then at one point, I don't know exactly why, maybe some bacteria or some organism which was there with just a simple cell structure decided to go and live inside another. And that was a turning point. From then on, life was going to be remarkably different. That must have been my grandparents, I don't know. Hey, I can't even say I'm a man or a woman because I'm not just talking about gender in human society. I'm saying in biology, there was no sex. There wasn't male and female. We were simple cells which just replicated ourselves. And that's who I am. But I became a little bit more complex. Unlike the other cells which just had this nucleus and the cytoplasm and the membrane around it, which was just like a little bit of code and some floating around in a liquid contained in a membrane. This is how the other cells were. But my ancestors, somewhere, one of them decided to live inside the another. And that's where was born mitochondria. You must have heard it in biology, mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. So what is the mitochondria contains a complete cell-like structure and that gets into another cell. And so I became a eukaryote, a cell which has something inside it, which is more than just a nucleus, which can do things. From that complexity came different branches. We don't know exactly how many people came. Oh, we don't have fossil records because I was a unicellular organism. And we don't fossilize. For fossils to happen, there has to be something hard like a bone or tissue or something like that, which came much, much later. But even Charles Darwin, who talked about evolution, hypothesized that there should have been such a creature as the last universal common ancestor, into which he said life had been breathed, and from which came all life. Maybe, yes, he was right. Today, if you look at it, we have DNA evidence. From RNA, view more complex structures that we call DNA, which can more accurately preserve and replicate the code. And so I had that DNA, and from my DNA came all of the DNA that is there in the world today. The DNA that's there in you, the DNA that's there on the mosquito sitting on you, the DNA that is there on the frog in the garden, the DNA that's there in the tree there, the DNA that's there in pretty much everything, the worm there, the pigeon there, all DNA came from that same single person who I was or am. That's a matter of perspective. Can you say I was or I am? As an organism, you could say I died. But as the DNA, as the code that I was, I continue to live in each one of you. I shape. In fact, all of life has the same way in which the code is written, which is the conclusive proof for the theory of evolution and for the fact that I lived and continue to live in every animal, plant, including all of us, all of you here as human beings. I live in your DNA, for I am the person who shaped what DNA is for posterity, for all plants, all animals, and all eukaryotes. Thank you.
Wonderful. Hold on. Please stay with us. Stay with us.
Sure.
Yes. Wonderful. So it's a great honor that you're here with us today. DNA particle.
Right.
Yes. And we know your story could be a very long story.
Yes, I think it's a very long story, but it's a small story, chapter in the larger story of the tree of life.
But it has taken, millions of years for the tree of life to grow, and so it could take millions of years to tell the story of it too.
Sure.
But we're grateful that you gave us the short version. So this was a very good example of personification. We were just talking about personification.
Yes.
You personified a strand of DNA or a molecule, or?
Yeah, the beginning of eukaryotes, that means life which is more complex in that they have cells with structures inside them.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought this was a wonderful way of reinterpreting a creation myth. You are telling the creation myth in a very modern terms, and which is a very exciting way of telling the story of science. There is a story of God, like when you said that all the DNA starts with that single element, and I don't know whether I'm dead or not. You actually redefining what the idea of the God is. So I liked it. I enjoyed it very much. Nice. Thank you very much.
The story like this is certainly open to interpretation, but I wanted to bring in the perspective of science, whether you accept it, deny it, whether you want to interpret it differently. That's open to the audience in general. I'm not saying just to you. I'm saying it's open to the audience. But I think it's important we have conversations about scientific understanding and not shut down conversation on evolution.
That's what the story should do. It should open up, and it should relate to at a different level, at a different point of time. The meanings can be created through different way the people perceive it, the way people take it. So because my training in mythology, for me it was a wonderful way of learning a new creation myth. So
yeah, you could interpret it that way, but to the best of my knowledge, I try to keep the scientific facts accurate. Earth was actually 4.5 billion years and things like that.
And for some other episodes, we would like some twists and turns. We would like some dangers that might have happened to you and how you recovered, how you escaped, because we have to, spice up a story. We cannot just tell it as a gradual unfolding. There has to be drama. So I'm sure we can find that. This reminds me, I understand in ancient Rome, when the politicians would make speeches in the forum, classically they would begin at the beginning of the universe. You know, their point may be that we should spend more money on schools, but they would frame their argument that, you know, at the beginning of the universe, everything was mixed. And slowly, you know, the land separated from the water, and the sky separated from the earth, and the animals came out of the water. And they would give a long preamble to set the stage for their point. So I don't know, that just came to mind. Okay.
Yes, yeah, I do agree. There are more exciting moments, and I can take some for future time. I can work on that. Yes.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, is it okay if I record this a little bit? Just to show to the Coffee Day people, basically. Maybe just record maybe 10 minutes of it. It's okay? Is it okay, Vidya?
Yes, fine. I've no issues.
Great. Okay. Just to give a sense to the marketing people of what we're doing. Oh, would anyone like to order anything? Coffee, tea, individual bills? Okay, let's have our next storyteller. Now, Samatha, myself and somebody else was talking about you the other day, and I was shocked with what the person said. The person said, Samatha is a feminist. And I said, well, yes, that's great. So am I. So what do you think about that as a label? Do you embrace it? You take it, right? I take it. I like it. I consider myself a feminist. Samatha facilitates groups, especially for women, retreats and with various types of process healing and also storytelling. So will you come and tell us some story, some sort of something? I think the topic for today is very broad. It's not just experiences that taught me something. It can just be experiences. We don't have to. We'll all figure out together what we learned from the experience. Just please tell us the experience. Okay, please come. Find your way through the maze. Okay, here we go. There you are.
Hello.
Hi.
So you have to divide your attention between Vidya, Dr. Vidya, and everyone else. You'll be able to spool it back and forth, right? Okay.
Hello everyone. It's like a larger audience today. I think about 20 people, 15, 20 people. I didn't particularly come prepared to tell a story. There's usually something on my mind that's working, and today I said I'm going to chill out and try to listen, but always getting up here, getting some attention is something I don't mind. I wanted to hi. So I loved your work because a lot of things that you try to do with mythology is something that really interests me. I think there's a lot of potential for storytelling to be a tool to connect more with college students. I think it's close to my heart, and I've been I'm happy to see this happening here.
Thank you.
It's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
So in terms of personal healing, I've been trying to talk about this super taboo topic for us, which is our connection with our mom and dad, how we grew up. The Indian family, from whatever, every time anybody tells me, everyone tells me family is so important. Family is what keeps them grounded in our country. And I think to a large extent it's true. It's been I mean, we've struggled with poverty for what, like 60, 70 years now, and our family has been the only real support system in comparison to, say, a couple of countries where maybe the government is of larger support than family, and people grow out of that. But anytime I try to, it's been 20 years, and I've been trying to talk about this topic of how my mom and dad did not make necessarily the right decisions for me. And how every time I try to open my mouth about mom, they will be like, your mother can never do anything wrong for you. And the same with dad. It's a very tricky topic, and it's very personal, very emotional. There were a couple of things that I think primarily the childhood went well for me because my mom and dad weren't around. I think that was I mean, in some sense, they had a stable home and you could go to school. And so I did, I mean, that's what happened with me. So the complexities of the adult mother and adult father, I never really dealt with at that point, right? Because if my mom had to be, like when you talk about homeschooling these days, and even in the more tradition, it's funny with tradition in India because tradition and then modernity and then back to tradition. That's the short cycle we seem to take, which takes like other countries 200 years and it takes us 30 years to do that. But that's good. I mean, so in this term, so initially the children were at home. The girl children were always at home, and the boy kids were sorry, I moved on. And the boy kids were sent to school, I think around 7 years, when they were 7, after the Upanayana, and which is like the entry into the schooling. If you guys didn't know, I think Kerala does still keep some form of the Upanayana about notionally. So then they studied till 16, and then the guy got married just outside of the school. He got married immediately to one of these girls who were sitting at home and playing and cooking and whatever they were doing. That's what's happening, and I think that was a much more closed system in terms of interactions between people. It was a lot more about people skills. But the way they I'm sure all of us here, really, I don't even think, are you the youngest here? Maybe even you didn't. Maybe you didn't also escape going to school in a very structured format. And then we go there and we learn these super boring things like mathematics, chemistry, physics, and and we are forced to sit in these chairs and not run around. And that's basically all of our childhoods, and it's extraordinarily sad if we can recognize that there was an alternative at all. But yeah, we sat on the benches when we had to play for 15 years, and they taught us discipline, structure, hard work.
See if one particular incident comes to mind.
Yeah, I'm just complaining, yeah. No, I mean, in the broader story, the intention, yeah, okay. No, Eric, the intention is to sort of give us a sense of that's the story. So then it disconnects. So this schooling, with its pros and cons, and there are pros. It does give us discipline and hard work and helps us face the next 60 years. Takes us away from the mum and dad. So we don't learn the emotional and soft skills that come from that. So one of those incidents where I remember as a child, to get attention from my mother, I had to fall sick. So every 3 months or so, I would have a massive sort of fever, cold, cough, breakdown. And then I would be allowed to rest at home, and the cycle continued. Now, when I was about, say, 20, I wasn't eating well. I was coughing a lot. And we entered into the hospital, and they diagnosed some tuberculosis from 15 years ago, from the childhood tuberculosis, which is another whole cribbing session on itself, a hospital system. But this was the time when the clash between mom and me happened. She was very, very sure that I had to be given tubercular medication, which is 9 months of severe drugs continuously every day. Has anybody else been through that here? Anybody's a doctor? So if as a preventative and cure to tuberculosis, they put you on 9 months of strong isomorphine or some deadly medicine like that, which essentially, so that's what happened. My mother was sure she didn't want her daughter to die, which is what the doctor says. And I didn't want it, but I was forced to take it. That was one of those incidents which gave me the scars in my face. And this was, I had very clear skin. It wasn't because I got pimples once in a while. It was because I went through this tubercular medication. Then I met a friend just last year. She was a school friend of mine, and she went through this tubercular thing when she was around 27. She broke down a little later, maybe 25, little later than I broke down 21 with this tubercular medicine. So in my case, the medicine gave me scars. It gave me severe stomach upset, and it took me and probably put me on depression for a few years. And in her case, it led to large-scale organ collapse. So she absolutely collapsed after this medication. All her hair fell out, and the doctors later, once her hair fell out, diagnosed that the medication led to the after effect. So there was a direct connection between her organ failure and this. And then she almost died in the hospital because of the medication. And she had to take 2 years off of her life. And but this I came to know only last year when I met her, when she was down from the US. So this is one thing, mother messed up. And mother mess up, talk with the mother goes, I try to bring it up to her once in a while and say, hey, you panicked then. You forced me into it. And she's like, no, it was the right thing for you. What is the alternative? You didn't have an alternative. And the question really remains, do they know? Does she know? She's 40, she's been dependent on doctors and hospitals for everything. Does a mother really know what the child needs physically? I mean, it's a really open-ended thing. And things that also, the idea that a mother is always nurturing. I had a conversation with my mother yesterday when I was telling her that I needed her help with something. It was 9 o'clock in the night, and she got angry and put the phone down on me. And then I call up and say, hey, listen. So I spent in my family, between my mom and dad, they put the phone down on each other without saying goodbye. And that was a normative thing. I grew up with that when I was at school and college and all of that. So if you're angry, you just put the phone down. And that's, and I thought this was normal, that people, when they get angry, just hang up on each other and give. So my mother, then I called her up and said, Mommy, that's rude. Why don't you say goodbye or say, I'm upset and I would like some time and let's talk about this later. And she said, no, I just need space. I think if you get time and I get time, we'll solve it. And then I'm like, why don't you say it? That is what telephones are for. So again, that's a very, things like this, the sort of behaviors that are supposed to be mothering and even eating food, for example, I got fed this dal and potato most of my childhood for some reason. I think somebody told them dal was healthy or something. And I don't think that I had the resources to tell her that I didn't want dal every day. Tell me how, sure, it's like all of our fate here. Does anybody here not have dal every single day of your lives? Is there anybody who doesn't eat dal once in a day? At least like once in a week, if you not have. There's not one hand up. All of us dal eaters, you're stuck with this food dal. And I mean, it's not just the cultural, of course it's a social cultural phenomenon, the way we eat food, but also the specificity of it and the lack of choices and options we have with our intimate family, mother, father, husband, wife, kids, even, and how we accommodate it in our lives. Yeah, that's my hopefully not a lecture. But.
Yes. No, samatha is always very real and very serious, very frank, and very, I'm sure your women's groups are very powerful. Your space is down on East Coast Road, and people stay there, and it's like it's a retreat. They come. And I've heard you tell mythological stories also. So, like many of us, we are looking at our own lives and also at grandmother stories and epic and mythology, and considering the experiences in all of them. And considering, if I was in that position, and one of the people I work with calls it parallel stories, because on one aspect of the story is, my mother and my father and my family situation. But a parallel story is what was happening with Shiva and Parvati and their sons. So we are living in both worlds.
Ambidextrous.
Yes. Great. Okay. Please come. I'm sure each teller is going to be very different tonight. Please introduce yourself.
Hi. I am Dr.
Hello.
Yeah, I am basically a doctor.
Hello.
I may look like a patient, but I'm a doctor. No, thank you. So,
No.
so when I say doctor, everyone eyes are broadly, oh my God, again he's going to talk about biology and cells and all. No, I'm not going to talk, because sir has a lot of information in his head. I don't have any. And thanks for the biology class, and I have revised all the Golgi bodies and cytoplasm and all. Thanks for that.
And what doctor you are?
I'm basically family medicine specialist. Deals with families. Yeah. General physician. Yes. Okay. So, from my childhood, till now, I'm a lazy person. And when I was young, as a kid, my father used to wake me up every day and say, get up and run in the morning at 5 o'clock. When I am 5 years old, 6 years old. How is it possible? But I had to. I got up, I ran with my brother every day. And after half a kilometer, I understand that I am still sleeping. And then I woke up and take rest, and then come back in a halfway and tell my father that I have run a big round. And I hated, I didn't hate my father actually, but I hate really the person who said to my father that running is good for health. I basically, till my age 12, maybe till 7th, I did this every day, and I used to run a long way every morning. And I don't know when I left, maybe around 7th standard or 8th standard, when I was very much interested in getting marks and very much comparing with others, competing with others about getting good marks and entering into good college or school. I completely lost, and my father also forgot. Thank God he forgot, and because he was busy earning and doing other things, so I left running completely. And then I entered into school, and then I did my +2, and of course I got bad marks, and I didn't get a medical seat over here, so I went to Russia to pursue medical degree. I studied there over there 7 years, and also I was very much interested to become a good doctor, and always wanted to be number one in everything. And came back after 7 years. So seeing all the doctors who are earning a lot, I also wanted to be one of among them. And whatever I do, I want to be excel in that. So I started a clinic first, and wanted to make more money. I never opted to go for a postgraduate because I wanted to become rich faster. So, but it didn't work well. So I went to UK, and there I didn't get a job. So I came back. Then my friend said, okay, you can go to Maldives. There you can earn a lot of money. Then I went to Maldives. There, the day I went, tsunami also came. So I came back running. Okay. And I started a clinic, and I'm running a clinic right now in Velachery, the place where I right now practicing as a family physician. So I'm very much interested in seeing patients and see a lot of patients every day. And in the process of making money and wanted to become famous or wanted to become someone in the life, I forgot about running at all, and I forgot about physical activity at all. When I studied my biology and my college days, that physical activity is good for health and keeps you always healthy. But even during my practice, I advise each and every patient that you should walk, you should do some sort of exercise. But I did only this biceps exercise, and I didn't do anything. So I was always busy with patients coming and sleeping in the house and going back, and this sort of things. So one day, what happened? I was traveling in my bike, and I found some sort of feeling of nausea, and I stopped my bike and vomited once. And thought, okay, it's some sort of indigestion maybe, and then went to clinic and saw my patients, came back, saw my patients and came back, and again, I vomit in the night even. So I thought, what is happening? And this vomiting thing continued for 1 month. I still remember how distressing it was, because every time my house, they make biryani, and everyone will eat biryani, and I will vomit. So these sort of things were happening, and basically we doctors are the who are very bad patients, and we always diagnose very well about all other illnesses, what others have, but when it comes to us, we don't diagnose it correctly. We always that's what we don't do. We think ourselves great, and we think we know everything, and we don't go to other doctors. Yes, we manage ourselves always wrongly. So basically, when some other person comes, I tell, okay, this is just a vomiting, don't worry, it will go by itself. But when it comes to me, I was very much afraid about only one thing. Like every other person, I also Googled vomiting continuously for 1 month. You put anything, any headache or anything, stomach pain or anything, you will get cancer only in Google. You will not get anything else. You will get cancer. And I also got the fear of cancer. And obviously, I was reluctant to go to another doctor, because he will tell to do all that sort of test and all. I thought, okay, I'll not go. But my family members are insisted that to go to a good doctor and see a good doctor. So we went and got tested and all, endoscopy and all done, and understood that it is because of a problem happened because of the poor lifestyle. I used to see patients till midnight at 12 o'clock and eat my dinner at 12 o'clock every day at midnight, and sleep late night at 1, 2 o'clock and wake up at 9 o'clock. No exercise, eating all sort of things I liked. Only advice for others, not for doctors. So 2004, 2016, it happened in 2016, and I realized that the nostalgic thing happened to me. Oh my God, I was a runner when I was a kid, and I have seen my friends who are running marathons and all, but I thought, okay, why not I try with them? So I contacted one of my friend. Okay, tell me, because I understood that I have been trying to do some sort of physical activity every time. Swimming, I go for a week and then stop. I go for a walk for 2 weeks and then stop. I understood that there is a lack of motivation in me, which makes me not continue the exercises I do. So I thought, okay, motivation, if you see if you um, or combined or connected with your friends, you will continue to do. So I asked my friend to help me. So he told, there is a group in Besanagar, please come over there. So I went and joined in the group and started running practically every day. The first day I went, there are a lot of ladies, even women around 50 years, 60 years and all, running. And one lady, a Brahmin lady was telling, she said, sir, I did 25 or 30 burpees today. I thought it's coconut burfi. then, then I understood it was some sort of exercise. So I was wondering how these people, even ladies, are so motivated to do things, and started running with them, and I continued to do that. And I first ran a half marathon in 21 kilometers in 2 years before. It's 2017. Yes, 2016 December. And again, I continued to run for another 1 year. And in 2017 December Wipro Marathon, I ran 42 kilometers in 5 hours 15 minutes. I was not able to walk 500 meters even before that, but I was motivated with the group, and I ran 42 kilometers. And also in Pondicherry, I ran in February this Auroville Marathon, 42 kilometers in this February. So friends, what is the message? Okay, so the experience I got, like vomiting, and I had illness, even though I'm a doctor and I know that how important is to do the physical activity or some sort of exercises, or yoga, swimming, or aerobic exercise, any sort of exercises, but I never did that. Please don't expect or don't wait for that moment, that experience, that bad experience to happen in your life, and then start walking. Please do walk right now so that you will not land up over there. Thanks very much.
So how many burpees do you do?
It's really true that many people would rather die than do exercise. I am also like that. But I have to, they've discovered I have a lot of fat in my liver, so they said I have to exercise, so I'm trying. But it's something new for me also. Good. So for your story, there was really a point that we should take action. We should not wait until a crisis. We should take action. Did anyone else get a different point from his story? Uh-huh.
So,
yes. No, every doctor is a bad doctor in their family. Because no one in the family trusts that doctor in that family.
They're discussing getting a second opinion.
but there is also something as conflicts of interest, right? Even I think a well-qualified doctor will find it very difficult to, especially perform surgery or something on their own child or something. Emotions become overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I always encourage storytellers to open the door and have a discussion. Asking many different people, what point do you get from that story? It's okay for the storyteller to give his point, but it's also, I think, a good thing to ask everyone, what did you get out of it? What did it mean to you? What memories did it bring up? What fantasies did it bring up? How did it touch you? And I have to admit, often it is the discussion after the storytelling that I find I enjoy the discussion more than the storytelling. So that's why I'm not a professional storyteller. I'm more of a teacher type.
One point that struck me was that the attitude was exercise is something that can save your life, not a pleasure.
Ah.
And so I had talked about
Hmm.
nobody had forced me that
One person is saying that we should enjoy exercise, or you enjoyed exercise?
I think something
Yeah, it should be enjoyable. When we're young, we love to climb on things. We love to climb trees. Mm. Yes, every school is all about sit down, don't move. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree.
And the difficult part is getting up early in the morning. Because what they say, one of my friends said, if you want to get up early in the morning, you should do something which excites you the first thing in the morning. If you do that, you should wake up early.
The doctor is saying that we should, in the morning, it's good to also exercise. It helps us wake up.
No, I mean, for example, if I don't like exercise, you should not do exercise as the first thing in the morning.
Ah.
You are not motivated to get up because you don't like exercise.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do, for example, if you like writing, you think while you're going to sleep, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to get up, I'm going to write.
Uh-huh.
You obviously motivate you to get up.
He's suggesting we should reward ourselves when we wake up. We should do something that we enjoy, and that will make us happy to be awake.
But unfortunately, I like this sleeping, so I.
Good.
That was the.
Okay. I think, let's stop recording. I think it's enough recording. I just wanted to give a flavor of it to the Coffee Day marketing people, but we'll stop the recording. And Dr. Vidya, I think we'll probably be going for another 20 minutes or so, probably 2 or 3 more tellers. But if you have to leave at any point, we understand.